On October 22, 2025, dawn broke cold and silent over the Donetsk front. Fog hung low over the torn countryside, mixing with smoke that refused to lift. Near the shattered village of Volodymyrivka, a Russian armored column prepared to move. 22 vehicles, tanks, BMPs, and support carriers, lined up along a muddy road still wet from the night's rain. The mission was simple: punch through Ukraine's forward positions, cross the river, and open a path toward the south. What they didn't know was that Ukrainian scouts had been watching them for hours, marking every turn, every sound, every thermal signature. The battlefield had already been drawn. The Russians were driving straight into a kill zone. It started at 6:14 a.m. when the lead tank reached the riverbank. Its engine roared as it pushed into the water, but the mud was too deep, the current too strong. Within seconds, the massive machine was stuck. The vehicles behind it stopped, engines idling, exhaust fuming into the mist. Then came the order from the Ukrainian command post hidden 3 kilometers away: target confirmed, fire control execute. In that instant, the calm morning was shattered. A storm of precision fire rained down. The first shells hit the lead tank squarely, splitting its armor apart and throwing debris across the river. The shockwave rippled through the convoy. Drones, circling high above like silent predators, relayed the chaos in real time. What followed was 10 minutes of relentless destruction. The second and third vehicles tried to turn back, but they had no room. Mines buried beneath the road detonated as treads pressed down. Explosions tore open the line. Ukrainian anti-tank teams hidden in trenches along the tree line began firing Stugna P missiles one after another. Their operators worked in rhythm, calm and exact, each missile flying straight into its mark. From overhead, FPV drones dove like meteors, their onboard cameras recording the moment before impact. One Russian BMP erupted in a fireball that lit up the fog. Another was struck as its crew tried to dismount. The blast tossed men and steel together into the air. The sound of engines, gunfire, and explosions merged into a single endless roar. Inside the command post, Ukrainian drone pilots coordinated every strike. The feed from the sky showed pure carnage, vehicles burning, turrets torn off, tracks spinning uselessly. They could hear intercepted enemy transmissions, panicked voices calling for artillery cover, shouting about being surrounded, begging for air support that never came. But the sky belonged to Ukraine. Loitering munitions roamed freely, selecting targets and striking with pinpoint accuracy. Each hit was followed by cheers that lasted only seconds before the next command, next target locked. Fire again. Within 10 minutes, the column was gone. The smoke was so thick that even the drones lost visual contact for a while. When it cleared, the landscape looked like a graveyard for machines. 22 armored vehicles lay scattered across the mud, most still burning, their ammunition cooking off in short bursts that echoed for minutes afterward. The river ran black with oil and fuel. Ukrainian soldiers moved cautiously toward the wreckage, rifles ready, eyes searching for survivors. What they found were fragments, helmets, scorched uniforms, shattered optics, and silence. The ambush was complete. The entire Russian advance had been annihilated in less than the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee. As word spread across the sector, morale surged. Soldiers in nearby trenches heard the explosions and knew exactly what it meant. They called it the 10-minute hell. Commanders reviewed drone footage that showed just how perfect the trap had been. Every missile had hit. Every escape route had been cut. Ukrainian engineers had predicted the enemy's movement down to the meter. It wasn't luck. It was preparation, hours of surveillance, days of planning, and the discipline to wait for the perfect moment. Analysts later said it was one of the most devastating ambushes since the start of the year. A Russian battalion's entire spearhead wiped out before even firing a coordinated shot. For Ukraine, this victory was more than just tactical. It was psychological. Every destroyed vehicle was proof that the occupier could still be beaten, that precision and intelligence could outweigh brute force. Each wrecked tank was a message to the world. Technology and courage are rewriting the rules of modern war. The soldiers who carried out the ambush returned to their dugouts exhausted but proud. They didn't cheer or celebrate. They simply reloaded, checked equipment, and waited for the next order. Because they knew this war wasn't over, it was only shifting to the next line, the next field, the next night. Hours after the ambush, Russian artillery retaliated blindly. They shelled the empty riverbanks, hitting the same ground their own vehicles had burned on. Explosions echoed through the valley, but there was nothing left to destroy. The Ukrainians had already withdrawn to safe positions, watching through drones as the enemy bombarded ghosts. Every wasted shell was another symbol of desperation. Reports later confirmed that Russian units in the area refused to advance again for days. The burned convoy became a warning, a black scar on the landscape that no one wanted to cross. The 10-minute battle near Volodymyrivka showed exactly how far Ukraine's defense has evolved. This is not the chaotic fighting of early 2022. This is precision warfare, a new kind of combat where every soldier is a sensor, every drone a weapon, and every second counts. The battlefield is no longer just trenches and artillery lines. It is data, timing, and control. And that control, on this cold October morning, belonged entirely to Ukraine. Drones, artillery, anti-tank teams, and engineers each played their part perfectly, like instruments in a deadly symphony. Satellite images taken hours later confirmed the scale of destruction. The convoy was nothing but wreckage, twisted steel, and burnt earth stretching for nearly a kilometer. International analysts compared it to the early ambushes in the first year of the war, but this one was different. It wasn't chance. It was mastery. Ukraine had turned technology into dominance, and the Russians had learned once again that numbers mean nothing without control of the sky and the terrain. Videos of the incident flooded social media, showing flaming wrecks, drone strikes, and soldiers advancing through smoke. The world watched in disbelief as one of the most heavily armored formations in that sector was erased in just 10 minutes. As night fell over the battlefield, Ukrainian troops gathered around small fires, eating cold rations and cleaning weapons. The smell of burned metal still hung in the air. One soldier looked at the horizon, where the glow of fires still flickered, and said quietly, "They thought we'd run. We didn't move an inch." For them, it was just another day in a war that demands everything: endurance, patience, and courage. But for those watching from afar, it was a moment that defined October 2025, the month when 22 armored vehicles rolled into Ukraine's kill zone and never came back. 10 minutes, that's all it took to turn a Russian assault into a legend. 10 minutes to prove that the will to defend one's home can outfight steel. 10 minutes that changed the map, the morale, and the momentum. And as long as Ukraine keeps fighting with that precision, with that unbreakable resolve, the story will keep repeating again and again until every inch of stolen ground is taken back. If you're watching this, remember these stories aren't just about war. They're about courage, sacrifice, and the future of modern combat. For more powerful, detailed breakdowns of real battles, strategies, and turning points like this one, subscribe to Battle X, the home of military truth, where every explosion, every decision, and every inch of victory tells a story the world needs to hear.